This may be controversial and might get me in trouble, but it's important for every resident in White Rock to understand. There is a set of rules, not secret, but not widely known. White Rock might be the most beautiful 5 square kilometers in the lower mainland, but tucked inside it is a list of property rules that can catch even longtime locals completely off guard.
Some people are breaking these without realizing it. Others know exactly what they're doing. And either way, once you know where the lines are, you'll never walk that promenade the same way again.
In today's video, we're covering 8 of the most surprising, misunderstood, and occasionally ridiculous rules hidden right in the bylaws in White Rock. By the end of the video, you'll know the ones that quietly protect you, the ones that can cost you thousands if you get them wrong, and exactly how to tell whether that neighbor who drives you nuts is breaking the law or completely in the clear.
I'm talking about things like a rule so precise that being on the promenade at 9:01 in the morning can technically earn you a ticket, or the single Hillside lot that can legally dump 8 cars onto your narrow little street and there's nothing you can do about it.
So this one's for the homeowners who want to stay on the right side of the rules, the neighbor who's fed up with someone gaming the street, or those of you who just want to be simply entertained. If that sounds good, let's get into it right now.
You only get one chance to buy or sell your next home. Let's get it right.
Hey, before we kick off, if you're thinking about buying or selling in White Rock or South Surrey, the biggest mistake you can make right now is relying on outdated advice or guessing your next move. The market has shifted, and what worked even 6 months ago could cost you tens of thousands today. My name is Darin. I'm a real estate professional living and working here in White Rock and South Surrey, and I've been helping families buy and sell here since 2007. Since then, I've worked with hundreds of clients, many of whom found me right here on this YouTube channel because they wanted straight answers, real local insight, and a strategy that actually works. On this channel, I break down exactly what's happening in our market, what to watch out for, and how to make smart decisions so you don't leave any money on the table. So if you want to stay ahead of the market, hit subscribe. And if you're serious about making a move, there's a link below to book a quick call with me or my team. No pressure, just clear advice so you can move forward with confidence. Here's the thing. In my line of work, you can't turn this stuff off. You walk into a house or down the street and you're clocking details nobody else even notices until the day one of them suddenly matters to you. There is this perfect little moment in the show Modern Family. You know this show where the husband's a realtor? Well, Phil, the character, is in a heated argument with a homeowner right on their front doorstep. And even in mid-fight, he can't stop pointing out the little things he's noticing that is eventually going to help his case. Just to stay on the right side of copyrights, let's listen to this clip together.
I'm so sorry if you really wasted your whole day. We're sorry what I let go to you.
Yeah, we're above that. But not everyone would be. You should put that beauty in your garage.
I don't have one.
Oh, really? Just out of curiosity, do you not have a garage because you converted it into the guest house where your grandson's currently showering?
What's your date, mister?
I just find it interesting that you'd have a fully plumbed standalone dwelling on your property.
That's none of your business.
Even more peculiar, your grandson appears to live in Europe, but judging by his t-shirt, he goes to Eden Mills High, an elite public school 12 miles outside your district. Oh, maybe with the money you saved on private schools, you paid for the new 2-sided brick fireplace I saw, which hasn't been legal since 1988.
Stop and talk.
Hold the sauce, Big Al. From Monday morning, the city's here with a bulldozer, and the grandson goes to a school with a mouth detector.
How do you know all this? Where are you, some kind of real estate agent? Ah, he's a realtor. There is a difference somehow.
Now that scene's played for laughs, but the stuff underneath it is real. I did a whole video on Surrey's weirdest bylaws, and the wildest part, cross one invisible line into White Rock just a few blocks away and half of the rules completely change. Same region, totally different rule book. So let's get into it, starting with the one that causes more quiet driveway rage than anything else on the list.
That parking spot right out front of your house, on most of White Rock's hillside, you don't own it. And the city runs a permit system that can turn your whole block into a parking lot. Here's how. Across a huge chunk of the residential hillside, the streets are permit-only parking zones. To park there, you buy a residential permit from the city. And here's the catch most people miss. You can buy up to 4 permits for a single dwelling. That's 4. And if the house has a legal secondary suite, the people living in the suite can buy 4 of their own.
Do the math. On a single lot with one house with one suite, can legally put 8 vehicles onto a narrow hillside street, completely above board. So when your block suddenly feels like a dealership lot, that's not someone breaking the rules. That's the rules working exactly as they were written. And here's the part that really stings. Say you've parked out in front of your own home for years, and a tenant moves into the suite next door and starts taking what you would call your spot. You call the city expecting backup, and you get the answer that nobody wants. The public street is first come, first served, and White Rock makes zero legal distinction between a homeowner and a renter. That tenant has exactly the same rights to that curb as you do. You cannot claim the street in front of your house. It was never yours to claim in the first place. So what can you actually do? Honestly, work the permit system, not your neighbor. Make sure your household's got its permits, knows which blocks they're good for, and save your energy for the stuff the city will actually enforce. Fuming over the fence isn't on that list. And speaking of the suite next door, whether it can even be there or not, or what its owners are allowed to do with it, is a whole rule book on its own. Number 2, so short-term rentals. This is one I get asked about constantly, usually by someone dreaming of buying a little place by the beach and Airbnb-ing it all summer, and I have to be the one to break it to them. In White Rock, you almost certainly can't do this. Here's the rule. A short-term rental has to be in your principal residence, the home where you actually live. You can't just buy a separate investment property, furnish it, and run it as a full-time vacation rental. On top of that, you need a valid business license from the city, and your license number has to appear right on the listing. So the moment an ad goes up without one, it's basically waving a flag at bylaw enforcement. And those registered basement suites, they're meant for real, longer-term tenants, not a revolving door of weekend guests. The whole point is to protect long-term housing in a city where it's already tight, instead of letting the place hollow out into summer rentals. Now, here's where it matters to you as the neighbor. If the suite next door is running as an illegal Airbnb, strangers with suitcases every few days, no license number anywhere, that's reportable. You file a complaint and your name stays confidential. The city checks the listing and checks the license and goes from there. And if you're the owner thinking about it, just know that the city has gotten very good at spotting the ones playing outside the rules. And the fines and the license headaches aren't worth a handful of summer bookings. Do it inside your principal residence with a license, buy the book, or don't do it at all. Which brings us to something a lot more lighthearted, but weirdly, the rule people get caught on the most: walking the dog. Number 3. If you've got a dog in White Rock, this is the one that'll get you because it comes down to the exact minute on the clock. Here's the deal. From October 1st through March 31st, which is considered the off season, you can walk your leash dog on the waterfront promenade anytime you like. But the moment summer hits, April 1st through September 30th, that window slams shut to a tiny one, 5:30 to 9 in the morning. That's it. Leash dog on the promenade at 9:01 a.m. on a sunny July day, you are technically in violation. Same dog, same spot, 90 seconds earlier, totally fine. And the Pier? Forget it. Dogs are banned from the White Rock Pier all year round, every single day, no exceptions. That rule actually predates a lot of provincial law, and the Pier's been there since 1914, and the city guards it hard. The beach is its own little quirk as well. You can walk a leashed dog there, leash under 2 meters, but off-leash is a no-go, and that's not even the city's call. That's Provincial Wildlife Act territory, because the whole beach sits inside a protected wildlife management. So why so fussy? It's the summer crowds. The waterfront gets absolutely packed in peak season, and that early morning window is the city's way of giving dog owners their time before the tourists take over. Love it or hate it, it's enforced. So if you're walking the dog down there in the summer, watch the clock like it owes you money. Now, from the rules about your dog to the rules about how many of them you're even allowed to have. And this is where White Rock and Surrey really part ways. Number 4. Okay. How many pets is too many? In White Rock, there is a hard line and it's lower than people expect. You can keep a maximum of 3 dogs over the age of 8 weeks on any one property. That's 3. And here's the part that surprises most landlords. So listen up. That limit is per property, not per household. So if you've got an owner upstairs with 2 dogs and a tenant in the suite with 2 more, that's 4 dogs on the lot, and the property is over the limit. The 2 households have to share that pool of 3 total. I've genuinely seen this catch people who have had no idea their tenant's dog tipped them over. And here's where it gets fun, especially if you saw my Surrey video. Over in Surrey, on a big enough lot, you're actually allowed up to 4 backyard hens. Chickens, right? But in White Rock, the number is 0. The city prohibits poultry, chicken, ducks, turkeys, the works, and traditional livestock too. No lot size loophole, no urban farming exception. Cross that invisible border between the two cities, and your backyard chickens go from totally legal to not a chance. Same region, completely different answer. So if a neighbor is clearly over the dog limit, or there's a rooster crowing where there definitely shouldn't be one, yes, you can report it confidentially. And the flip side, as always, count your own. If you and your tenant have quietly hit 4 dogs between you for the entire lot, you're actually the one offside. Now, let's head back out to the front of the property, to your yard, and to a rule that's the complete opposite of how Surrey handles it. Number 5.
In my Surrey video, I told you that Surrey had a hard number. In fact, it was 8 inches. Grass over 8 inches is considered unsightly in Surrey. White Rock doesn't play it that way at all. There's no magic height, no centimeter rule, no line in the bylaw that you can measure against. Instead, it's judged on appearance. Under the unsightly premises bylaw, you're not allowed to let your property slide into decay, and that explicitly includes landscaping that's overgrown, neglected, or just plain gone wild. So it's not about a number. It's whether the yard is clearly being let go.
And the consequence is the part that gets people. If the city deems your yard unsightly, you get a notice with a tight deadline, often just 48 to 72 hours to deal with it. Ignore that, and the city sends its own contractor to clean it up, and then tax the bill right onto your property taxes. You don't get a say in the price, you just get the invoice. So picture a snowbird who heads to Arizona for the season and leaves the yard to fend for itself, or the empty house slowly turning into a jungle. That's exactly what this is built for. And yes, a fed up neighbor can report it confidentially. The flip side is simple. Don't be that house. If you're heading out of town for a stretch, line up someone to keep the yard in shape, because the alternative is the city doing it on their schedule at their price on your tax bill. Now let's talk about something that drifts over the property line, whether anybody likes it or not. That's cigarette smoke. Here's the one that catches even longtime smokers off guard. In White Rock, you cannot smoke within 7.5 meters of a business doorway, an openable window, an air intake, or a restaurant patio. 7.5 meters. That's about 25 feet. And that buffer is bigger than the provincial standard of 6. White Rock went stricter on purpose, and it's not just cigarettes. The bylaw covers vaping, and it covers cannabis exactly the same way. On top of the buffer zones, smoking and vaping are flat out banned in all the public gathering spots, the parks, the playgrounds, the sports fields, and yes, the entire promenade, the pier, and the beach. So that mental picture of strolling the waterfront with a cigarette, not in White Rock. Now, here's where I have to manage your expectation a little bit, because this is the part that people get wrong constantly. If you're in a condo or a townhome and your neighbor's smoke is drifting onto your balcony or in through your window, that is almost certainly not a city bylaw problem. The city's buffer rules are about doorways, windows, intakes, and public patios, not what your downstairs neighbor does on their own balcony. For that one, you're going to have to go to your strata council, not the city's bylaw enforcement. A lot of people waste a very frustrated phone call just to learn that the hard way. So out in public, near the shops, the waterfront, that 7.5 meter rule is real. Inside your own building, totally different world run by your strata's own bylaws. And the flip side of this, if you're a smoker, right outside the door is exactly where you're not supposed to be. Now that's something that you can't send across your property line. Let's talk about something you can't touch even when it's standing in your own yard. And on the hillside, it could cost you up to $10,000. Number 7.
This is the one that makes people's jaws drop because it feels so wrong. A tree growing in your own backyard. That's yours to deal with however you want, right? Well, not in White Rock. Under Tree Protection Bylaw 2407, once a tree's trunk hits about 20 centimeters across, measured at chest height, it's protected. And guys, 20 centimeters isn't even that big. It's like that. That's like 8 inches. And that means you need a permit to remove it or damage it. Even pruning has limits. Do it badly or top a tree to hack it down to size and you're offside. Topping is specifically not allowed without permission.
And the fines are not a slap on the wrist. Damaging or cutting a protected tree can run you up to $10,000. And here's the brutal part. Every tree counts as its own offense, and every day the violation continues counts as another separate offense on top. It stacks super fast. So picture a classic White Rock move, a homeowner with a big tree blocking that $1 million ocean view. They get tired of it, call a guy with a chainsaw on a Saturday, problem solved, right? Until Monday, when they're staring down a 5-figure fine for a tree that was technically theirs. And the city knows exactly why people do it, which is why they guard that canopy so aggressively. On a steep hillside like this, those mature root systems are literally helping hold the slope together and manage the stormwater. Cutting them isn't just a view issue, it's a stability issue for the entire street. A couple more things worth knowing: even when you are allowed to remove a tree, you'll often have to plant replacements or pay the city cash instead. There are real exceptions for trees that are dead, dying, or generally hazardous, but you still have to go through the process. Don't just freelance it. And if a protected bird is nesting in that tree, an eagle, a heron, provincial and federal wildlife law can freeze any work on it, sometimes for a very long time, until a biologist confirms the nest is no longer in use. And the neighbor's tree hanging over your fence, you can trim the branches back to the property line, done properly without harming the tree, but that's a civil matter between the two of you, not something that the city referees. And whatever you do, don't touch the trunk. So the rule of thumb: before any saw touches a decent sized tree, make one phone call to the city and ask. A free question beats a $10,000 answer. All right, we're on to the last one. And this is the one that quietly turns a renovation or a home purchase into a complete nightmare. Number 8 is permits. I know it's not the sexiest note to end on, but stay with me here, because this is the one that can cost you the most and hits the hardest exactly when you're buying or selling. In White Rock, almost any real change to a house needs a permit. Structural work, electrical, plumbing, adding a kitchen, moving walls, putting in a suite. And a lot of homes out there have had work done with no permit at all. Maybe a previous owner finished the basement themselves. Maybe somebody quietly turned a storage room into a rental suite. It happens constantly, as you can imagine. Here's why it matters though. If the city finds out, and very often it's a neighbor complaint that tips them off, they can issue a stop work order on the spot. And then it gets expensive. Bylaw enforcement has the authority to make you tear open finished drywall and walls at your own cost, just so they can inspect the wiring and plumbing hidden behind them. If it can't be brought up to the current building code, the city can order the whole thing ripped out and shut down. Now, connect that to buying and selling, because this is where it really bites. If you fall in love with a home that's got a bogus suite or a beautifully finished basement and none of it was permitted, that's not a charming little extra. That's a liability that you're about to inherit. The takedown, the reinspection, the lost rental income, the headache. It's one of the biggest reasons I tell people to ask hard questions about permits before they ever write an offer. So whether you're renovating, buying, or selling, permits aren't paperwork you can skip. They're the difference between a finished basement that adds value and one that quietly becomes a 5-figure problem with your name on it. So why does any of this matter? Well, whether you're buying in White Rock, selling here, or just trying to be a good neighbor on your street, these 8 rules shape your day-to-day in ways that most people never see coming, right up until they're the one that's getting the notice, the fine, the nasty surprise at the worst possible moment. Knowing them ahead of time is what keeps you out of all 3. And here's the thread running through almost all and every one of these: the line between a city bylaw and a strata rule. We brushed up against it with the smoking one. Your balcony, your building, that's strata, not the city. And the strata is the piece I didn't really dig into here because it deserves its own video. And some of these rules do apply still to strata, but there's so much more. You know, the rules have changed so much over the years that even longtime owners get them wrong. And a single wrong assumption about a strata can cost you the perfect home or land you in real trouble after you've already bought. If you want to know exactly what's changed and what to watch for, well, the good news is that video is coming up right now. I've seen buyers walk away from the perfect home because of rules that don't even exist anymore.